Are you solving the wrong problem? One thing I see consistently is people spend a lot of time trying to solve problems without first making sure they understand what the real problem is. For instance, if someone comes to me and says, I need to leave my job or I need to hire someone, this person is the problem. I need to make more money. Maybe. We'll see. Before we start trying to solve anything, I want to know what's really going on. Because the problem someone brings to me isn't always the problem we end up working on. Years ago, I was working with someone who was overwhelmed by a situation. They didn't know how to handle it. And this was an intelligent, hardworking person. However, we discovered that they were dealing with something outside of their experience. So I took the time to listen. And as they talked, I realized what they thought was the problem wasn't really the problem at all. There were other things going on. So I started asking questions to find out what was actually happening, what they knew for certain, what they were assuming, what they were afraid might happen, and what would happen if nothing changed. The questions changed the way that they saw the situation because now they had more clarity. And that's something I still do today. We need to understand that before we can make a good decision, we need to know what we're actually deciding. We need to assume the first problem that we see isn't always the real one. Let's say a business owner tells me they need to hire another employee. I might ask them, why do you think that? They could be overwhelmed, or maybe the work isn't getting done. Customers aren't getting responses quick enough. Those are problems as a result of something. But does that mean they need another employee? It's better to start by assessing the responsibilities are clear. If there's a problem with delegation, or maybe someone already working there could take on more responsibility. The system or the process of doing things needs refining. It's also possible that the business is taking on work it shouldn't be taking on. If the problem is a bad system and they hire another person, now they have another person working in a bad system. And they're paying for it. So the decision wasn't really, should I hire someone? The first decision was, what's causing the problem? That's different. One of the first things I look at when I'm helping someone process a decision, what are the facts and what are the assumptions? Let's say someone believes there's no future for them in a company. What do they actually know that makes them think this? Did someone tell them there isn't an opportunity? Did they apply for another position and get turned down? Did they talk to a person who could answer that question at all? Or are they assuming there's no opportunity? Could there be an opportunity if they were willing to develop their skills? These are important things to consider because making decisions based on assumptions is not a good idea. And the higher the stakes, the more those assumptions can cost us. So I want to separate everything into here's what we know, here's what we think, here's what we don't know yet, and here's what's possible if I do X, Y, or Z. Now we know what information we may need before making that decision. And sometimes we're solving a symptom. You might say, I hate my job and I need to leave. Well, maybe they do, but I'd want to know what they hate about it. Is it the work? Is it their boss? The hours? The money? The amount of responsibility? Are they exhausted? Has something changed in their life? Has something changed in the company? Or is there one problem that's making everything else look bad? Because leaving the job solves one problem, it also may create 5 other new ones. And that's why I don't jump straight to, should I stay or should I go? We may not be ready to decide that yet. And we don't want to get ahead of the process because there's pressure or because we feel stress. We have to understand what's actually happening first. It's important to look at the whole picture. Here's the upside down puzzle I've used for years. Imagine all the pieces of a puzzle are sitting on the table, but they're upside down. All the pieces are there, but you can't see the picture or how each piece relates to each other. And that's what's happening with a lot of difficult decisions. They may know what they want to avoid, have all the information, but they don't see how it fits together. They don't see the relationship between what they're trying to decide and how it can affect other important things. And that's where another perspective can help. Not to tell them what to do, but so they might see something they're too close to see in that situation. This can make a big difference. We also want to consider the decision isn't always either or. I often see people limiting themselves to two choices, good or bad, black or white, this or that. They're thinking, do I stay or do I leave? Do I hire or not? Do I start that business or not? Do I say yes or no? Those may not be the only choices, so we don't want to assume that. Instead, I like to ask, what other options are there? Could something be changed? Could I change? Could I wait? Could I test something out first? Could we get more information? Could somebody else be involved? Could the problem be solved without making a bigger decision at all? Sometimes there's an option nobody's considered because everyone has been focused on choosing between A or B, black or white, this or that, right or wrong, yes or no. Why don't we examine the risk instead of just feeling the pressure of the risk? Someone might say, I can do that, but it's too risky. Okay, what's the risk? Do they actually know it, or are they just feeling kind of alone in that? What's the worst that can happen? How likely is it? If it happens, how serious would it be? Can anything be done ahead of time to reduce the risk? If it does happen, how easily can you recover from it? But there's another question people often forget. What's the risk of doing nothing? Doing nothing isn't a neutral thing. It's a decision made trying to avoid making a decision. I'll say that again. Doing nothing isn't a neutral thing. It's a decision made trying to avoid making a decision. If someone stays in a bad business situation for another year, there's a cost. The cost could be your health, your finances, your relationship. If someone avoids dealing with an employee problem, there's a cost. It could be that good employees might want to leave. If someone keeps putting off a financial decision, there's a cost. If they decide not to invest in something, they find out later that grew rapidly and was a great decision, they lost out. If someone continues doing something that's affecting their health or relationships, there's a cost. They may end up alone, broke, divorced, who knows? So we have to look at all sides. What is this actually costing? This was part of what happened with the person I worked with years ago. Once we looked beyond the immediate problem, they realized that avoiding it was affecting other things that mattered a lot to them. And that changed the situation. Now, the question wasn't just, do I want to deal with this? It became, what happens if I don't? That's a much better question. What is the cost financially, in time, energy, focus, relationships, opportunities, health and well-being? Sometimes the cost of avoiding a decision becomes greater than the risk of making it. Risk is not all bad. Risk can be very good. Years ago, I worked with someone who was looking for a way to manage a financial side of their business. And they started asking people what they used for software. And one person said QuickBooks, someone else recommended something different. Everybody had an answer, and all the answers were making the person more overwhelmed. The problem wasn't a lack of options, they had too many. So instead of asking what's the best program, we needed to ask, what does the person actually need? What are they trying to accomplish? What fits their resources, their natural flow of doing things? That's how I think about decisions. There isn't a one-size-fits-all answer for everybody. It depends. For instance, two intelligent people can look at the same situation and make a different decision. They may have different priorities, different responsibilities, different resources, different seasons of life, and that's why I don't tell people what I would do if I were them. I'm not them. They have to live with their decision. My job is to help them see what they're actually deciding. I'm looking for patterns. I pay attention if the problem has happened before, if the circumstances are different, if different people can be involved. I ask, is there a pattern? If someone keeps ending up in the same kind of situation, that's important information to know. So I might ask them, has this happened before? Tell me more about it. So we can begin to see how they process and maybe if that needs to be adjusted. For instance, if fear keeps affecting their decisions, are they making assumptions or avoiding a difficult conversation? Are they taking responsibility for the things that aren't theirs or allowing other people's expectations to influence their decisions? If we only focus on solving the current seemingly urgent situation, we'll miss that. And 6 months later, the same problem may show up somewhere else. And that's why solving the immediate problem isn't always enough. We have to understand why it's happening, what's underlying. So, what problems are you actually solving? Before you make an important decision, slow down long enough to ask, what's actually happening? What do I know for certain? What am I assuming? What's the real risk? And what happens if I do nothing? What is it going to cost me? Who or what else can be affected by it? And what options haven't I considered? And does this decision I'm considering actually solve the problem, or does it kick the can down the road for me to have to solve it again? Because people aren't stuck because they can't find a solution. They've been trying to solve the wrong problem.